Howdy folks, Nathan Adlin here with the Fast Lane truck, and behind me the 2016 Toyota Tacoma. This is the off-road one that you're seeing cruising around here, and this is called the Devil's Boneyard. It's really cool. We're doing a lot of off-road stuff, but more importantly, we have Mike Sweers, who is the Toyota Tacoma and Tundra head engineer, and he's going to be talking about that truck for everything you want to know, and that's coming up next.
This is all new sheet metal on the exterior. Our whole styling theme is a desert racer truck, so it's heavy and rugged in the front, light and agile in the rear.
All right, now I've noticed right off the bat that aerodynamically speaking, this is the off-road version. As such, there is no front skirt in the, up here.
Right.
But the other ones, like the TRD Sport, have one that comes down and has the vortex generators, as some people call them, hanging out in the front, but this obviously doesn't. Can you talk to us about how this is different from those vehicles?
Well, again, aerodynamics was a big study for us to go through on the truck. So we have an air dam on all grades except for the off-road. Even with the air dam, we have a 29-degree approach angle. With the off-road package, we maintain best-in-class 32-degree approach angle. And the whole goal was to make sure that we're protecting our off-road DNA, our heritage, and allow customers, regardless what package they pick, have that capability to go off-road. The easiest thing you can do for aerodynamics is slam that truck down on the ground like a NASCAR, and that helps cut through the air, but it really doesn't give you the capability to do anything but drive on the road.
There we go. This is the regular 4x4 system, and it's really not having that much of a problem as long as you maintain momentum. Piece of cake.
So our focus was to improve aerodynamics without taking away from the truck itself. I'm happy to say through all the changes we made, and we spent countless hours in the wind tunnel, but the main goal of this was to get down about 48 counts in coefficient of drag, but by doing it little increments all over the truck instead of just focusing on one area like our competition.
Well, what other increments can you show us? I think there are a few things with the mirror and also the way that you guys designed the wheel well arches and whatnot.
Yeah,
am I correct?
So even if you look at these lines, all the lines were checked in a wind tunnel to make sure that they wrap air around the front of the truck. So on the front of the truck, you want the air to wrap around it, and that helps with straight line stability. If the air separates, you start creating that uneasy feeling. So if you've ever driven between two semis and your truck is rocking, it's really because you have a vacuum on both sides of it. So we want to keep the air connected. When you get to what we call the over fenders themselves are really like a big piece of plywood going through the air. Right. So looking at each line, trying to keep it, and if you look at this again, the radii are very tight on theirs. It's to keep that wind separating from the vehicle and down the side of it. As you move forward, the mirrors have been redesigned again for more aerodynamic. We have our air fins, our vortex generators up here. Funny story on the vortex generators is I got called out to the proving grounds. Our aero guys are like, oh, you got to come out and check up on these air fins that we came up with. Mm-hmm. And I got out there and they gave me a presentation and they talked about how they can improve straight line stability with these. What they actually do is create turbulence down the side of the truck, taking away that vacuum, and it holds the truck steady as you go 45 miles an hour and over. But my image was when they're presenting as I was going to see this big fin, this big wing coming off the side, and the engineer reaches in the pocket and puts it on with some double-sided tape, and I'm like, seriously guys, this took a whole day to come out here, and I'm driving this. Spent 4 hours on the track, putting them on, taking them off, putting them on. It's amazing what they do.
All right, downhill time. This is a major grade, and there is no hill descent control. So what we're doing is just using the brake judiciously, and we're just going to ease it on down and not panic. And look at that, major angle, stopped nice and smooth, not a problem. I do not feel the front end pitching over. So in other words, it doesn't feel like my old Tacoma. I'm going to try to avoid hitting Andre. You want me to peel to the right? Okay.
We also re-engineered the mirror so we have the same fins underneath it, and we engineered the gap between the mirrors. This is where a lot of your wind noise comes from.
Yeah.
So that's all been changed to prevent us from having wind noise. Again, moving down it, the sealing on the doors all been changed. We have a front door to rear door seal now. Again, this helps with keeping the air attached to the vehicle, not creating any turbulence in there, and cuts down on the wind noise going forward. And then one of my favorite additions is we have this bed to cab seal that goes in here. This again prevents the air from wrapping around the cab itself. We call that the quanta effect. It wraps around there and then it becomes turbulent air between the cab and the bed. Turbulent air takes energy, that's drag, and reduces the, your efficiency is cutting through the air. The other thing that does is that turbulent air creates a lot of wind noise inside the cab, especially for the rear seat passengers. So by putting this flexible rubber seal in here, we've reduced that rear noise substantially in the back. One of the other things we've added is that we have quarter vents. The quarter vents allow air to travel through the cabin, so as we improve the sealing, door closing becomes an issue. And we've added an additional quarter vent so we can move more air through the cabin, so as you close the door closing speed or effort is improved because we're just getting that air to travel through. It's like you're trying to compress air if you don't have enough ventilation going into the cabin. The trick is how not to get road noise up back through those vents, and we played a little magic with that to improve those areas. As you move towards the back, again, we talked about the over fenders, but even areas as a tail lamp. So you can see that we have the aerofin stabilizer, vortex generators back here, but even this radius on the rear combination lamp has been through the wind tunnel. In this time, we don't want to keep the air attached to the vehicle because it'll wrap around that quanta effect again. We actually want the air to separate and to shoot back. Otherwise it wraps around, creates drag again. And we added a spoiler up here. The spoiler helps significantly. That's about a 3% improvement, and that allows air to separate instead of wrapping down and creating drag as well.
Well, that is some major differences. So there is one final question in terms of the outside, and that is the rear bumper. I've heard some interesting things about this being a three-piece bumper and how it's constructed. Yeah,
so the bumper is completely changed, and we took a page out of our playbook with Tundra. The bumper itself is three-piece, so we have interlocking kind of design in there. The goal was to reduce repair costs for the operators. Our engineers studied what is the most damaged area on a bumper, and it happens to be around where you hook the trailer hitch up. So the cheapest part to replace is also the part that typically gets damaged more than any other portion on there. We also, for weight savings, changed from having steel reinforcements back here to long glass fiber composite reinforcements. This gives us a weight savings and improves the corrosion. It's actually stronger than steel that we have in the current generation.
That is underneath actually supporting this bumper.
That's correct. And then we moved our 7/4 pin connector up off of the ground, so again you don't have the damageability concerns that are out there. And then also on the back tailgate we added a viscous dampener back there so the tailgate comes down easy.
That's a rotary style.
That's a rotary style dampener. Right. On Tundra we actually have a strut type dampener on it. This is our new 3.5 liter Atkinson Cycle V6 engine. This is all new from the ground up. The great thing about this engine is we have our D4S fuel injection technology, the latest generation. So that's port and direct fuel injection. We also have a brand new VVT system, independent intake and exhaust VVT system. And for those that don't know what Atkinson cycle is basically you're holding the exhaust or the intake valve open during the initial compression stroke. That allows the cylinder and the intake manifold to equalize in pressure. And for sake of argument, you're basically reducing your stroke a little bit. So instead of overcoming the vacuum of coming down and then this, we're taking that friction area out, reducing a little bit, and just using the most efficient portion of the stroke of the engine itself when torque isn't needed. When you need torque, it switches back to auto cycle.
So, from what I understand, the new 6-speed manual transmission, all new, and it has ball bearings to help it have a better overall feel. And is it also for efficiency, or?
We went to carbon synchronizers in it,
in the transmission
in the
itself.
Transmission itself, and we went to ball bearing shifts instead of plastic guides in it. That is mainly for the smoothness of the shifting, and creates a much better feeling when you're going from gear to gear.
It's like more
slick,
feeling.
it's positive, and it's in there. It's a really great transmission. I'm a manual transmission guy,
Yeah.
so just having that where it doesn't feel like a stick in a bucket of gravel, you know, where you're just pushing it. You don't have to grab that stick, you don't have to force it in anymore. You just give it a push and it's going in the gear.
One final question. A lot of guys have gone to coil springs with the rear suspension. Notice that you guys have maintained leaf springs. Is there a reason why you did that with the Tacoma?
If you look at a 4-link suspension in the rear, it gives you a much better on-road ride. The only downside of it is you lose capability, especially payload capability with the truck. And so the bigger the load you put in, a little more unstable. We get a little more better hauling and towing capability with the leaf spring itself and the way we have our shock set up. It's not that it's a bad system, it just adds mass, and it's for on-road ride. We think we've got to a point on our truck where we have a very acceptable car-like ride on-road, but without giving up anything from an off-road durability. So maintaining our ground clearance, maintaining the fact that as you get off camber, then you get some wheel lift in here. The independent will keep that wheel on the ground, but your ground clearance is decreased because of the structure of the suspension itself.